To all of God's dearly beloved, gathered here at Mount of Olives, grace, mercy, and peace. So when I read the gospel lesson for today, I was struck by several surprises, things that happened in this gospel that I really didn't expect, and I'd like to share some of them with you. First of all, Jesus traveled into Gentile territory. Jesus was a Jew and usually hung out with the Jews. And I had been taught and I realized that Peter, as a disciple of Jesus, had been called to preach to the Jewish community. And Paul had been called to preach to the Gentile community. And I guess I'd never realized that Jesus also had spent his time and shared his love and his miracles with the Gentiles while he was here on earth. Second surprise that I found that struck me in the gospel was that Jesus accommodates the demons' request when they asked to be put into the swine. And my first reaction is, if a devil or a demon asks something of you, you're going to get your hackles up and say, I'm not doing anything you asked me to do. Well, Jesus accommodates, shows mercy, and does what they ask, and you see what the outcome was. And I'm sure Jesus knew what the outcome was going to be. And so this morning I thought, maybe that's kind of a lesson in picking your battles. Sometimes things are just not worth the fight, and in the end what the outcome's going to be. I want to share with you a little bit about demons this morning. In a sermon that I had read this past week, there was a minister that expounded on demons a little bit, and I thought it was quite interesting, and I'd like to share that with you. That demons are about temptation, and temptation is all about being attractive. So demons are not necessarily going to appear to us with horns and a tail and be extremely ugly. They may come to us as something very attractive. In the passage, this minister states that Satan or the demons don't care if the crime rate drops. They don't care if there's a cure for every disease. They don't care if we're one big happy family. They don't care if we go to church every Sunday. However, their goal is to separate us from Jesus. And even though these wonderful good things happen, or we do these wonderful good things, there's still a possibility of being separated from God if we don't see who He really is. If we don't see His love and forgiveness, recognize His death on the cross, and how that gives us forgiveness and salvation. It writes here that Jesus Christ, crucified for the forgiveness of all sins and raised from the dead, He is the only person to defeat the devil. And that same Jesus offers His victory to us. And that victory is not about material wealth, and it's not about a better job, and it's not about being happy all the time, and it's not about that emotional high that we get. And the victory is not even about being nice. That victory is about forgiveness. Jesus offers us forgiveness, and where there's forgiveness, there is also life and salvation. I just wanted to share that with you because to me it was thought-provoking about the demons. Now, the third surprise was the people. Once they saw that the demon-possessed man had been healed, he was normal. Instead of welcoming Jesus, they asked him to leave. I guess they were so scared and so content with the status quo that they couldn't handle it, so they asked him to go. wondering if maybe they realize that Jesus, when he comes into our life, causes change. And maybe sometimes we're too comfortable in our daily lives that we push him away instead of pushing forward with the change and seeing what excitement there may be there. Another surprise I found in the gospel lesson was that Jesus did not allow the healed man to follow him and to go back into Galilee and to stay with Jesus. And instead, Jesus tells the man to go back. Go back to your homeland, to your friends, to your family there, and to tell them what God has done. Go back and proclaim. God knows what is best for us and what our calling is. And he sends us out to places we don't expect, sometimes even back to where we've been, and asks us to proclaim the good news there. Our journey may take us places where we don't expect, and sometimes we're asked not to follow, but to be the voice where no voice has been before. One thing we need to realize is that what God has called you to do, nobody else can do. So, I remember, I'm looking and saying, there is another page to this sermon. Okay, so I remember years back, a minister had told me that a sermon's purpose is not to teach, but to proclaim. And so therefore, I would like to proclaim to you this morning that God is full of surprises. He has conquered death and the devil, and he offers forgiveness of sins, which brings us life everlasting. I want to proclaim that God is bigger and stronger than all the demons out there. The demons that are outside and the demons that are inside. And I want to proclaim that God calls us to go and to proclaim these good news. He loves us so much. And he asks things of us. And the things he asks are not so much to be in response to the love that we have for him, but maybe he asks these things of us because of his love for us. And that may be one reason why I really enjoy the hymn of the day that's coming up. Will you come and follow me? Thank you.